In the year 1982, Buick unveiled what would go down in history as possibly the coolest car they've ever made. What started out as a Boy Scout engineering project ended up a certified supercar destroyer, faster in the quarter mile than a Corvette, Lamborghini Countach, and Ferrari Testarossa. Yeah, we're talking about a Buick. And without a doubt, the Buick Grand National is one of the premier icons in the 80s era of the automotive industry, breaking the mold of what was considered a muscle car and proving to America that there is, in fact, a replacement for displacement. So, when it comes to the term muscle car, not many people would associate that word with the brand Buick. A brand that has long been known as the quintessential grandma car, Buick is actually one of the oldest car companies in the world, having been around for more than 120 years. Founded in 1899 by David Dunbar Buick, establishing the company as an internal combustion engine manufacturer. Shortly after, in 1908, William Durant, the founder of Chevy and eventually GM, would acquire the Buick brand. Over the next 100 years, the Buick brand played a massive role in shaping the domestic automotive market, and it firmly established itself as a very oddball brand that appealed to a very specific type of person. Often marketed as a brand that blends approachable luxury or attainable sophistication, appealing to those who want something nicer than a Chevy but not as expensive as a Cadillac. And it was in the 80s with the Grand National that many people, including myself, consider that Buick really hit their peak. But before we can talk about the Grand National, we need to understand the backstory and the development of its iconic engine. More than a decade before the Grand National made its debut as a standalone model, a Buick engineer in Michigan started an automotive shop program for local Boy Scouts. His idea was to expose young men to the world of automotive engineering, and their first project as a group was to turbocharge a 3.8-liter V6 engine and drop it into a Buick Skylark so the kids could learn about the effects of forced induction on internal combustion engines. Little did the engineer Ken Baker know that this would be the starting point for the most legendary Buick ever produced just a few years later. This was a time of big experimentation, and turbocharging technology was still really new to the automotive industry. And Baker was really surprised just how much power and potency that turbocharging the engine brought to the new motor. And soon, his side project caught the attention of the chief engineer, Lloyd Russ. Russ envisioned a performance-oriented future for Buick and saw Baker's Turbo V6 as the way to do it. So in 1976, Buick took Baker's new project engine and placed it into a Buick Century Indy 500 pace car. With this new engine, it was actually able to outperform actual NASCAR competitors, and recognition grew from there. In 1978, the engine was added as an option for the Buick Regal, making the 78 Regal Sport Coupe one of only 5 turbocharged cars which were available on the market at the time. By the early 80s, Buick had developed a reputation as a company that was rolling out a lot of underpowered and unimpressive V6 street cars, such as the Regal, the LeSabre, and Electra. In 1981 and 1982, Buick also won the NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National, with the Regal being raced by 17 different teams. And with so many wins on track, it was really odd that there was not a car available to consumers to identify with from race wins. As the saying goes, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. But Buick had nothing to sell, or at least nothing that the public wanted to buy. So Buick tried to rebrand the Regal. Originally intended for a run of 100 units, Cars and Concepts, a shop out of Brighton, Michigan, retrofitted 215 Regals with the Grand National package. This was a visual-only trim which included light silver gray fire mist paint added to each side, red pinstripes, and a billboard shadow lettering on the rear quarter panels. And they blacked out the rocker panel moldings using black vinyl tape. Finally, a front air dam and rear spoiler were installed. Under the hood, the same 125 naturally aspirated V6 was left untouched, aside from 35 units out of the 215 which were equipped with a 3.8-liter turbo V6, pushing power to a almost respectable 175 horsepower. As you'd expect, these tricked out Regals didn't really do much to impress the target customers. But over the following years, the changes made to the Grand National would get better and better, and in 1984, Buick would make its triumphant return with a new Grand National. This time, they took their assignment seriously. Only available in black, the aesthetics of the 1984 Grand National were a few steps above the mediocrity of the previous base model Regals. This time, the Turbo V6 came standard, with an extremely respectable 200 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. This is pretty impressive considering that this was a time when government regulations were really choking the automotive industry and manufacturers had to find a way to build powerful engines with these new regulations. The new Grand National features some pretty advanced technology too, such as new and improved sequential electronic fuel injection and a computer-controlled ignition system. These improvements resulted in the Grand National far surpassing power levels and performance of its main rival, the Camaro, and placed the Grand National squarely in competition with the Corvette, which only made 5 horsepower more. That year, only 2,000 units were built. In 1985, not much changed with the Grand National, and 2012 units were sold, and things would only get better from here. In 1986, the C4 Corvette started to pull ahead in terms of technology and power, so Buick's engineers dialed in their new technology, air-to-air cooling, and this would really push the Grand National to new levels. The more efficient engine in 1986 brought in 35 more horsepower, bringing the total output to 235, and 0 to 60 time down to just 5.2 seconds. These were astonishing stats for the time. A V6 Buick was now a full second faster than a V8 Corvette that costed twice as much and was capable of running the quarter mile in under 14 seconds. That year, the Buick was the fastest American production car, faster than a Corvette, Camaro, and a Mustang. At the time, Car and Driver actually tested the car, and they discovered it was making 290 horsepower at the wheels. And rumors quickly began circulating that Buick had deliberately lowballed the car's power in order to keep assurance affordable for the owners. 1987 would be the final year, and Buick went out with a bang. The company's rear-wheel drive platform was ceasing production in 1987, and the team behind the Grand National knew that the car's days were numbered. Rather than go out silently and let the Corvette win by default, the team went insane, and they built the GNX, or Grand National Experimental. These were a total of 547 Grand Nationals built in collaboration with McLaren, boasting a suite of engine upgrades such as a bigger turbo, a bigger intercooler, stiffer shocks, fatter tires, and a new body kit. Final power output was measured at 276 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. This brought the 0 to 60 time down to 4.6 seconds, and the quarter mile was ran in 12.7 seconds at 113 miles per hour. In the end, the $11,000 upcharge for a fully loaded Grand National was universally considered worth it, and all 547 units instantly sold out. After 1987, the Grand National was done. Considering GM sold 22,000 Corvettes in 1988, it's highly likely that the Buick would have sold plenty of the faster, more iconic GNXs. But Buick was on a new track. The Regal was shifted to a new front-wheel drive layout, and for better or for worse, not a single strand of the Grand National DNA was left in the new front-wheel drive Regal. The Grand National was a muscle car icon that lived fast and died young. In recent history, the values of Grand Nationals have skyrocketed, with only 29,000 Grand Nationals ever produced, and just 547 GNX models, values have ballooned. A mint condition 100-mile GNX was sold in 2007 for just $49,000. Quite the deal, considering that average values for low-mile GNXs have since risen to over $180,000. And the very last GNX that was ever produced sold at a Barrett-Jackson auction for $550,000. So that's the brief but really awesome history of the Buick Grand National. Thank you for watching the video. My name is Nick. If you want to see more automotive content like this, you can consider subscribing to the channel, and if you really like the video, consider becoming a join member to support me and allow me to continue producing content like this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.